morning, Meg. Good to see you again. Good to see you this way.
Good morning. Yes, what a surprise, right?
Yeah, this is a nice format, I hope. It has been on my calendar. I didn't quite know what to expect, but I'm really happy to see you. So probably you can just remind me to start with who you are, what you have done, and we'll get started this way.
Sure, I have a bit of an advantage, right? So maybe also, sure, we actually met in a coffee chat not too long ago, perhaps about a year ago.
Mhm.
There were quite a few of us, though, so I totally understand if you can't place me. I'm actually from Milwaukee. Maybe that's a reminder. I live in Cologne. I'm working as a strategy director in strategy and digital transformation. And in my free time, I'm an ally of Blend and a mentor. And actually, we probably spoke a little bit about Be My upcoming project, or perhaps you're aware, we are working on an innovation center. So that's my latest project that I'm working on.
Very, very cool. Yeah, no, I do remember. I think it was at a snack and talk, how we call the format, right?
Oh, also that. Yes,
We're
correct.
together every once in a while with a few people from all across the organization, and we have a little bit of something in common. You're from Milwaukee. I spent like 14 years of my life in California, and my kids actually are both American, and I always remember the time very fondly. And now I'm also really happy that I'm also in charge of the North America, so I get to go back every once in a while, and I really am also super happy to be able to do that again. Usually I go like 5-6 times a year, and then I had a little pause for 2 years, so I just returned actually from the US. So tell me about this a little bit. You're active in many ways. You said you're an ally of Blend. What does that mean? I know the concept, but what does it mean for you?
Yeah, sure. Well, Blend is our Bayer's resource group for LGBT plus, and we work a lot on making sure that employees who are either in the community itself or have people in their families or are managers or colleagues of people in the community, that there's, the right culture, that there's really good acceptance, understanding. And we're busy in a lot of different ways. We work with Diversity Day. We work a lot with different types of other organizations outside of Bayer. And of course, everyone remembers our work in the parades. I think that's what people are excited about each year. But there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun people, and I enjoy volunteering.
No, it's very interesting. I am also a very big fan of the resource groups. And as a matter of fact, I just assumed a co-sponsorship of Buy Afro, which are the Black people of African descent, but not only in the United States. We're in the process of combining the various initiatives. We do wonderful stuff in Brazil, but also in Africa, and we have initiatives in Europe, and we're trying to do the same thing, combining this mission and try to make a big difference.
Sounds really good. Yeah, I really like the BRGs. We have a day coming up where they're going to be introduced to all of the employees, and we're looking forward to getting more people on board, making more people aware there's a resource for them. I'm also a little bit involved in Prosy. I don't know if you know that one.
No, I don't know that.
That originated in our procurement, which is why it's called Prosy, but actually it's available for everyone to participate in, and it's also in many countries. It's for volunteer work. So maybe you've seen some of the Christmas trees that have been available where there's stars, you can pick them off and buy Christmas presents for disadvantaged families, or there's the opportunity. I cook for the Ronald McDonald House here in Cologne with a group of people. Before Corona, we were allowed to actually go to the house and cook there, so it was a nice group activity. But in the meantime, we're still cooking and just taking it there. So I agree with you. I like a lot the different BRGs.
I like this. I know this from my time in the US, this community outreach, like you mentioned, the Ronald McDonald's House or these Christmas trees. It's much more commonplace. And I think for us as a global company with a German headquarter, we often export stuff to our country organizations, but that's a very good one to import, actually. And I know the Ronald McDonald House. My wife is active there or has been very interested in that, and that's certainly a super good cause.
Yeah, and actually it's caught on a lot in Germany. We just did the Rhine cleanup most recently, and there were different groups who were working on that, and that was also a surprising. It's getting better, the Rhine, actually. There weren't quite as many, but because of ATA, I guess some people told us there were some larger items, but not by far as bad as it was in the past, I was told.
You got to make sure that we communicate that to the whole population so that you can get as big of an outreach as humanly possible with this. But Meg, you mentioned that you're on a mission on innovation, and this company is all about innovation. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing there.
Sure. So we're in the process of setting up a new innovation center, and we'll be focused on technology and how technology advances just next gen. So not the stuff that's way out there, but just the stuff that's just off our roadmap could help us for customers, all of the divisions. So we're really looking across the gamut for the next thing. For example, there's synthetic data topics, right? There's metaverse people talk about. There's all sorts of technologies, and there's mushrooming going on. We'd like to really look at what makes sense in some of those cases.
Oh, that's fantastic. And is this something that's coming out of the IT shop, or is this coming out of the strategy shop, or the product marketing shop, or all together?
I'd like to think it's all together. It's housed actually in IT, but as you know, we have with all of the divisions a roadmap that goes out. Maybe you heard about it in the digital transformation board. We have roadmaps that are set for all the divisions to digitalize them, and we're talking about the stuff that would come just after those roadmaps are completed. In addition, we are really looking to make sure that we future-proof Bayer, right? And future-proof the workforce in Germany. And we're looking to upskill people, not just in the IT, but also in the German-located workforce.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. I'm here now for 4.5 years, and this digital transformation board is something that we had to shape a little bit, but I'm really happy with what it's doing now. Having the CEOs of our 3 businesses and the digital transformation leads, some people would call it CIOs, together along with the enabling functions and aligning these roadmaps. First of all, it just shows that we can do a lot of things together as Bayer when it comes to cloud, AI, machine learning, and we really put a lot of effort into consolidating these roadmaps. And of course, the big project, which we call CORE, customer-oriented, resilient enterprise, where we look at all of our end-to-end processes that need some streamlining and some optimization, I think is super fascinating. And hopefully we can showcase some of that there as well.
Absolutely. I can completely appreciate that. I spent the beginning of my Bayer career in consumer health in various marketing and sales roles and responsible for brands. And of course, what you see there sometimes is the move now, right, to a mixed type of offering and services. And I think that's really good to offer our customers the best possible options, right?
How long were you in consumer health, Meg?
Oh, in total, it was 15 years, but it went by like just a snap, let me tell you. I started off as an international trainee. That used to be a program. You might run into them, actually. There's lots of them still around. And we were put 1 year of marketing, 1 year of sales, 1 year of controlling, and then kind of sent out into the world. We were thought of as nomads at the time. And I was in the midst of that, and I got called up for an emergency with Alka-Seltzer, so I jumped into that. I went right from that into 400 milligrams of ibuprofen going over the counters in Germany, so I went to looking at our local brand there and launching new products. I went from there to aspirin. At the time, aspirin didn't even have a website, right? So I brought my laptop at the time to Germany, and at the time, Germany had 1 PC for 28 people in the marketing department. So I even put some of the new website addresses under my name. And then one day somebody came and said, Meg, you can't be aspirin.com. You're just Germany. And I said, well, what do you want me to do about that? And they said, you have to be aspirin.de. I said, .de? Who's going to ever use .de, right? But how times change, right?
So you came in through this trainee program?
I did. I never intended to stay, actually. I came in thinking I was going to do, like a breeze through. And actually, my mentor at that time, he was the head of Bayer Germany. And he even kind of construed something like, well, you'll probably be passing through. It turned out I was passing through, but I wasn't passing through Bayer. I was just passing through the positions. So that was really nice. Yeah, I went from there to European marketing. I looked at our Roche acquisition back then at the time. I went from there to our US organization. I worked for Citracal, maybe also a known brand. And I worked for a lot of launches. I did a lot of product launches in my time in consumer health.
So you worked in Germany and obviously in the US at one point in time. Did your career bring you to any other countries?
It didn't. I actually did a short-term assignment in Basel not too long ago to sub in for consumer health, DTIT R&D. No, I haven't been to the other countries, but I worked a lot with them because I'm in a global role. So sometimes you just visit them, but you feel like you've been working with them forever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. I, was wondering, did you always want to be CFO?
Not always, but I have had the wonderful opportunity, and this was outside of Bayer, to have a great mentor just around the turn of the century. And now I'm dating myself. That was 22 years ago. And I had a really, really good mentoring session when I was, let's just say I was like 10 years into my career, and I had a really wonderful coach in the high-tech space. And I had done several things. I had done a bit of a rotational career development. I was in planning, I was in finance, but I also did a bit of M&A, and I was also in IT at my prior company. And it became the time when I had to focus. And I was just a benefactor of a great mentor. And at that time, around 2000, I remember it was in fall of 2001, I said, CFO is the job that I want to do. I love it. And I became a CFO in 2010. And guess what? Now it's almost 2023 and I'm still a CFO. And I am lucky enough and blessed enough that I get afforded the opportunity to do it at 3 different companies, at Western Digital, at ASML, and now for 4.5 years here at Bayer. And I still love it. Love it every day.
It's really nice when you look in the mirror every morning and you love what you're doing. That's something I try to impress on my colleagues, right? Is the fact that you have a choice every day, right? And I think a lot of people, they forget that, but it's a nice way to think about things.
I sometimes tell people about this little book that I read. It's called Fish.
I know this one.
You know it?
I do.
Yeah, it's about this fish market in Seattle. And they always have a really good time. And I don't remember all the rules.
There's
but
even
I
a little video.
Yes. And the first one is, to your point, choose your attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every morning you can come to work and you say, this is going to be a difficult day and I don't like this meeting and I don't like this. Or you can say, this is going to be a great day. If I get these 3 things done, then I'm going to be contributing further to the success of the company and my colleagues. And that's what I chose for myself. Every morning I say, let's go. And we have enough great stuff on our mission as Bayer to work on. And as long as we make progress, it's going to be great.
Do you enjoy the culture that you find in the board of management here?
Yes, I do. I always tell people, and it's 100% true, I never regretted a day that I joined Bayer. I love it. We're obviously learning as a team. We are a team. We're all very different. But we all work on the same mission. We're a total team of 6. And no, I love it. We have a very open culture. We are pretty clear on our strategy. We put a lot of work together on our strategy and on our mission and our vision. Our vision is health for all and hunger for none. I mean, there's not a lot better visions I could think about. And no, it works very well. We have debates, but that's necessary to get to good decisions. But no, I truly enjoy working with my colleagues on the board. And actually beyond the board, we have the group executive circle, which is basically the board and all our direct reports. And then, of course, we have the GEC, the broader management team. And what we do in the board is only one thing, but we actually need to make sure that it's coming from the entire management team of the company. So, no, I love it. How about you? What are the teams that you're in, Meg, and how do you like the collaboration there?
I really like the fact that we have hybrid teams, working a lot globally. I really like the fact that we work cross-functionally. My background being in marketing and sales and consumer health, is not one of those things where you say, okay, now I'm going to jump into crop science, but you could. That's the kind of cool thing about it, right? And that's how I got to the IT in the first place. One of my old managers came and found me. I was the head of trade marketing for Consumer Health Germany and said, hey, Meg, would you like to do strategy for the IT, right? And I know some people, they sometimes say, oh, it's the dark side, but actually it's not, right? Because digital transformation solution is kind of what connects us all. And you already mentioned the core project, which is led, by someone who is really familiar with our business and with our divisions. So that's what I really enjoy. I enjoy the fact you can work in this culture of camaraderie. You can have discussions, you can be of different perspectives, but you still kind of come to a good solution at the end. People are constructive. I do like that you get a lot of mentoring just by being in some of those teams, right? By working with, our managers, by working with some of the groups you just mentioned. We actually hosted a virtual offsite the beginning of this year for all of our leadership in IT. And it was really interesting to see how they work with each other because I got to, spy a little bit when we are conducting these type of things online. So it's nice. I wouldn't be at Bayer if I didn't enjoy things around here. And, it's the people that make it. I think people say that all the time, but it's true.
It is the people. It's a very social, it's a very caring company. I like that as well. But I like one aspect of what you just brought up, and because I'm such a believer in it. And then you said you can move between functions and divisions, and quite frankly, for a traditional German DAX company, that was probably not always the way, but I see a big change going on there. I mean, I love it when I just talked to the head of all of our product supply of pharma. But he was the head of product supply of a crop before. And you come from consumer health into marketing. I had also, into IT. I also had 2 years in my career in IT. And I was responsible for all the applications of a pretty big company and had to do the roadmap. That was 20 years ago. But I still benefit from that today. And I think this is something that we are absolutely on the right path on, that we're also promoting quite a bit in our talent management processes, that people don't get boxed into one path, that they try risks and they try to do different things. And I really like that quite a bit.
Yes, I do. I speak sometimes in the digital transformation area about skills, right? And I always tell people, you don't have to know it. You have to just have an imagination where you can imagination how this could benefit something, or you could imagine how this could be similar to something you've done previously, or a solution for something that's over in another area. So yeah, I agree with you completely. I think in the future, we won't be assigned to departments. I think we will be kind of a grouping of skills, right? And then I will be tagged with my skills, you will be tagged with your skills, and then it will be more flexible. So just like I'm in this innovation center project right now, people will be brought in based on that. Our work group for that project takes in lots of different departments. And people keep asking, oh, is that a department? No, it's a project team. It has lots of different people with lots of different talents that we will be needing. And yeah, I think it's the way of the future.
We see this quite a bit in this project that we already chatted about, Project Core, which I find really fascinating. When we talked about this Project Core, people said, oh yeah, that's another SAP implementation. And we said, no, it's not. It is a business-led IT-enabled project. We will absolutely have co-leadership on this. But you're absolutely right. The process becomes the object, right? Rather than saying this is the financing and this is the production thing and this is the procurement thing, is no, this is order to cash. And by definition, you don't need a department head, you need a value stream owner that optimizes this. And this is probably a good example for what you're saying there, that we already practice this in probably the most important program for the company right now. One of the most important programs.
Yeah, agreed. It's definitely a very big program. And you see that it's all about those processes you were just discussing, right? And there's, I think, more and more people at Bayer are getting an idea of what our value chain is from beginning to end. In the past, when I was in marketing, there wasn't much knowledge of production or of R&D. And I think in the meantime, you find more and more people who have kind of that end-to-end, starting in R&D a little, how does this work, going through the product supply, ending up in the marketing and sales. And when you have that end-to-end, it just gives you a totally different view on what you're doing, whatever that happens to be, I think.
And I think it's also an unbelievable opportunity, Meg, to simplify. Because I mean, we are a very focused company today. I mean, we are in health and nutrition, and we have an ag business and we have a health business, over the counter and then prescription. But we are not what we used to be 30 years ago.
Oh, no.
We have plastics and chemicals and aqua films, but many of our processes still stem from an era when we had multiple businesses, and now we have the once in a lifetime chance to really simplify them, standardize them, where it's not of a competitive advantage, and then really focus on innovation, both on the process front and the product front, to win in the marketplace. So I'm really very excited about that one.
Yeah, agreed. As you were just mentioning these processes, right? So that talks to the area you're responsible for, right? Enabling functions, which contains a lot of those departments. Are you thinking that we're getting to that lean place? We're getting to the right place where we can continue to add value, where we've simplified, where we have more of a best practice setup?
First of all, I'm not in charge of all the enabling functions, right? I'm colleague Werner and Serena.
Also,
and
yes, of course.
3 colleagues who are in charge of the divisions, and then 3 colleagues who do the enabling functions. I have a pretty decent chunk of them. Listen, I still think that I have this saying that I really love. If you don't like where you are, you need to look at where you're coming from. And wow, if I look like 4 years back and look at where we are right now and what we've already achieved on some of these simplifications, it is truly stunning. I could give you tons of examples where, I don't know, we allocated cost products based on 10,000 parameters, which of course nobody understood anymore. And now we do it with 10, right? I mean, it's a simple example how we really super simplified our processes. And there's much more to come. If I look at the roadmap, including core, I think in another 2-3 years, we will be leading the pack here. And so I think we're making very, very good progress, Meg. But how about your area of responsibility? Do you see it in your environment?
Yes, I definitely see a simplification going on. I do see the ability to get a clear view of what needs to happen. Processes are still a little on the complicated side, but as you alluded to, we will be improving those as we're implementing core. That will be something actually we talk about in digital transformation all the time. Don't just take what you have and put it in digital, right? Which is make sure you have the best possible thing for digital and take that opportunity to improve it. So I think that's going to be a really big step for us, and I'm looking forward to it. When I first joined Bayer, it was quite different. It was very complicated, right? We were a holding company. We were holding other sub-companies. And so as an international trainee at the time, there were 3 HR departments responsible for me. And they actually managed to lose my file among them. So we've come such a long way. And in the IT, as you know, there's been a lot of changes. It's a pendulum to a certain extent. You know, we maybe went a bit far. Now we're trying to pull back just a hair and to rectify to the right size. I think that's the popular phrase.
No, but I think this is a pretty good example. IT, obviously, we have a lot of changes in IT, and I think there's also a bit of the cultural development of the company. We got many decisions right in the last couple of years, but we also probably have decisions that we need to adjust a bit. So it's not this perfectionist thing anymore where everything that you do is supposed to be right. You want to be right in 80% of the cases or so. That's a pretty good rate, by the way. But you also got to have the opportunity to course correct. But you just triggered my thought there, and sometimes we're all together not quite as happy yet as where we are, but and sometimes the outside world actually sees it before we see it internally. So I'm very proud my colleagues in the legal department, for instance, who have gone very far and beyond what people usually do in the legal department, and try new things like automatic contract creation and stuff like that.
Yes, that's right.
But they won the Financial Times award of the most innovative legal company. Same in procurement. They just won a big award, and was actually quite interesting because they won the award, and internally people said, why did they win the award? We're not there yet. The outside world seems to see already what we are going for, and I find this very encouraging.
Yeah, they're great goals. I really like the fact that we've set them to be beyond safe. We used to say at Bayer, right, that we were, and we still are, we're very safe, which is important because we work with patients, we work with food, but we need to know when we can step out of our comfort zone, right? There's some places like legal or like these other places with, especially with internal situations where we can step out of our comfort zone and we can be innovative. I think that's going to be the balance we're going to look at for the next couple of moments, right? For the 18 months, 24 months, I don't know.
I totally agree. And very rarely have I seen that switching from 0 to 1 in a very fast period of time is successful. I mean, I'm a very impatient person. I like speed. I like things to go, but sometimes you got to be very patient. And I think one of the things that I think we're getting right is that we are not just measuring the financial. And I'm a CFO. I'm trained for years and years to manage financial impact. But what I really like about us is that we are also setting ourselves non-financial goals, and they're part of my incentive. And I think what we do here is to also measure a little bit of the change that's going on in the organization. And I personally focus quite a bit on workload. And whenever you do a lot of change, your workload goes up. And we have targets to make sure that we manage that well. But we also manage engagement. And this is pretty unbelievable. I mean, it seems that our people, despite a lot of change going on in the company and a lot of pressure from the markets, are actually super engaged. I mean, we have a 4 out of 5 in this current volatile environment. So I think it's a good way of managing change as well as a company.
You know, that's a good point. And I don't want you to give any secrets away, but adding Sarita to the board, I think, was also a really nice indication of where we want to go, right? With those type of things like engagement, the culture at Bayer, with the way we're changing, the way we think about shaping ourselves and shaping our goals. I think that was a nice addition because we see, you know, things like ways of working. We see ways that change for everyone, and also in a pleasant way, right? That we are enabled as employees, that decisions are made closer to the place that the work happens. I think these are in combination, right? Which allows people to be engaged and feel like they're really able to carry the load.
I agree. I mean, it has been really on the board. You asked earlier on the board how it feels, and I think it's also quite nice that we are diverse in not only from a gender, getting more from a gender perspective, but also from experience perspective. We have people that have been at Bayer for a very long period of time, and we have people coming in with different experiences, and that blend works really, really well. And I think we've done quite a bit on the people agenda. We always had, when I arrived, we already had the life values, which I think are very, very important. But I think now with this leadership attributes, engage, shape, perform, we're making the next step there. And then empowering and simplifying, that's where the ways of working make a big dent. I always think like we made the right choices. Now we need to let it sink in with the organization. And I see it now more in action than a year ago. And that's very, very encouraging as well.
Agreed. Yeah, change takes time. People have a lot of heads down working going on. And so it's important to give them the opportunity to see those new things coming in and to experience them. And there's different trainings and whatnot available. So I see more and more, though.
So I'm curious, Meg. I mean, these are odd times, right? I mean, the world is at war, and we still have COVID that's not completely done. We're heading into the fall season, and we may see a little bit of an upswing again of COVID. How did the whole working from home thing work for you? And I think every company in the world is working on some sort of a hybrid right now. But how does it work for you?
I love it. I have 2 daughters. I've never seen them more. I was able to really mesh together my work and my family life. I enjoy the fact that we have really nice office space. I will have to say, when I come to the office, I enjoy being there, but I also really enjoy the ability to balance things the way I'd like to balance them. I have a lot of US colleagues. You have some as well, right? So it's nice to be able to go home and do some of those calls in their time zone from home. And that's really been a big one for me. I'm a night owl, so I really appreciate the ability to kind of distribute my time and to distribute the work, whether that's in a group where you're together or whether that's online. So for me, it sounds horrible perhaps, but it wasn't a bad time at all. I actually benefited a lot. I didn't get to see my family in the US, which was not nice, but from a general work perspective, work-life balance, it actually was a blessing in disguise.
I think this is interesting. First of all, somebody would have said before COVID that a company with 100,000 colleagues would function with everybody being at home. You would have been declared insane. I mean, a financial close done by everybody being at home. I mean, Our teams did fantastic, I have to say. Also our IT teams, by the way, to enable this from a pure networking technology perspective. The second thing that people would have said, well, you cannot trust people because people will do all their other stuff. And boy, were we wrong of those people who had doubted that, because
absolutely.
we had the exact opposite problem. People were doing much more. I mean, and they're working at some weird hours. And I personally also liked it. I'm the opposite of you. I'm an early bird. I always stay up long, but my
Good for Asia.
my concentration goes down at one point in time. But the flexibility is certainly cool. And I talked to a lot of colleagues that really, really, really appreciated the flexibility, right? I mean, if you talk to colleagues in like Barcelona or Manila or some of these bigger cities that, I don't know, spend 2 hours, 3 hours a day in the bus or in the car, and all of a sudden you have that time and you can go to a doctor during the day, or you can help your kid with homework. I think that was really interesting for everybody. And we just now need to find the right formula of, now there is the fractions who say we need to bring people back, and the fractions who say everybody needs to be able to do everything like they do want to do it. I personally am a believer that the truth is somewhere in the middle. We need to enable flexibility. I think we will absolutely do that. Then when we have creative processes, when people need to come together to work on solutions like we just talked about, core or innovation in your space, we got to find the right mechanism to have people do that from time to time together. I think we'll also not be very prescriptive in a way that we say everybody has to be here on these days. We'll have to leave it to the leaders and empower the leaders to make the right decisions for their teams.
That's one of the experiments we're doing with the Innovation Center, right? We know we won't need to be open 5 days a week. We also know that a lot of our work will be online. If we just talked about metaverse and some of these other experiments that we will be doing, there's no physical need to come to the technology. Having said that, we do want to have a thriving innovation center where people feel the energy, which they're able to get inspired by maybe some exhibits that are there. And we've been discussing, what is the realistic starting point? Where is the realistic amount of time to plan for? And I'm looking forward to seeing who trickles in and how that starts looking and how the teams form or end up being hybrid. We'll find out. That's a discussion we're in the midst of having.
Very good. You talk about planning. I mean, how do you personally plan your career? I mean, what's your dream for the next couple of years? What do you want to do, and what support do you get, or do you get the support you need?
That's a very good question. Interestingly, I had it in the past that a lot of my opportunities found me, and I liked that, to be able to be approached by someone who needed me, needed my skills, and I'm very open to a lot of different areas. My skills are quite universal with strategy, with leadership, etc. And I think that's the interesting part, that you no longer can answer that question of what do you want to be, in 5 years, but I can answer the question of maybe a few things I don't want to be. I can also answer the question of, what my ambition is. I do have the ambition to be in those groups that you named, right? Direct reports of your direct reports would be, ideal in the next little while. And my understanding is, from the way that we do talent management, that's a possibility for me. So I'm looking forward to being able to show what I can do, make sure that I can have the opportunity for recognition, which I think Bayer does a great job at. And I've heard that there's more emphasis now being put on trying to look at talent pools a little bit more deeply. So I'm hoping that also that will benefit my ability to find a nice opportunity as the next one. But I've just taken this one in August, so I'm going to focus on getting this one right.
Yeah, I think this whole engage, shape, perform leadership positioning is really very, very conducive. I've also observed quite a bit of cool stuff. Like in my area, for instance, we have a talent pool, which is, by the way, not like a static pool that some elite club where you get in and you stay there forever. But we make it an effort to ask my leadership team to identify coming rock stars, and we'd like to pick them up in their late 20s all the way through the 30s. And then we try to get to know them much better because our daily interact wouldn't bring them as close to us usually. And then we always get into discussion rounds where we discuss these talents. And before we discuss that, always two of my leaders have to have a pre-meeting with the talent. And then we decide, is it somebody that we want to help, accelerate, bring into a challenging, risk-taking position? And then one takes a mentorship, and I got to tell you, we do this for 2 years now, and I've seen some amazing results. And that's just one little example on what we can do there. And lots of these things have been deemed impossible a few years ago. And so there's big change there on the way.
That's good. I also saw a change in the way we think about women kind of returning to the workforce, right? So you said you have children. I also have 2 children. I didn't step out for long periods of time, but you can't be moving around the world when they're in certain ages, etc. So I'm really happy that Bayer has been flexible and understands that maybe my ambition was different for a couple of years there, and that just because I'm maybe a little older now doesn't mean I can't go, fire up the ambition again as I have the opportunity to have more of my own free time. So I have seen a lot of that as well, which is great through Grow and through other resource groups for our female employees. I think that's also a modern way of thinking things, right? Things are no longer linear. If you step off the linear path, you're no longer seen as, well, what happened there, So I think that's also important that we keep these wider views, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, it all comes together, some of the topics that we've already discussed. We as a company, one of the non-financial goals I mentioned has to do with diversity, not just gender diversity, but that's certainly a big topic of ours. And we got to be a bit more flexible. And sometimes it's not just the numerical goal. Sometimes it's just walking at the basis and taking one case at a time. And I've seen some really, really good results. I always like to mention this example. We have 33 country CFOs or regional CFOs in the world. And 4 years ago, about 75% were men and 75% were German. And we never set an objective. It needs to be 50-50. We just set an objective. These are great roles. We shouldn't export the talent, and they're excellent development roles. And we should take the risk and take emerging talent and put them in. So we never set an objective. But today we're more like 60 male, 40 women, 60 German, 40 different nationalities. But we never set a goal. And if we keep doing that over time, we naturally get to much better diversity. But you got to measure it at the end of the day to see whether we're making progress fast.
Much of it is organic. That's true. Well, thank you very much for this opportunity to meet you again. You're a very busy person, I know.
Somewhere around. I will definitely check out the Innovation Center and
Q1. Sounds good.
Very
Hope
good.
to see you
Very
too.
good.
Thank you
See
so
you
much.
later. Have
Thank
a good
you.
one.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.